Hi everyone, it's Ben Dunnett here from musictheoryacademy.com. In this lesson, we're going to have a think about rests. Really simple learning objective. By the end of the lesson, I want us to easily be able to read note rests in music. So, reading rests. In a previous lesson, we looked at note length, otherwise known as duration, and we saw how the symbol of the note determines how long the note is. So if you have a look at this table here, that summarises lots of the notes that you'll come across and that you'll see, and that whether the note head's filled in, whether it's got a stem, or whether it's got a tail, determines what type of note it is. It's all very logical. Now it's exactly the same with rests. It's very, very logical. Each note has a corresponding rest symbol. So let's start with the whole note, otherwise known as the semibreve. Now the note symbol is a note head that's not filled in. The rest symbol is this little rectangle that seems to be hanging on the fourth line up. Now if you see that you know that the rest lasts the same as a whole note, so it lasts for 4 quarter note beats. The half note rest is very similar to that whole note. A lot of people get these two confused, so it's worth just thinking about this. The half note rest symbol is the same little rectangle, but this time it's sat on the third line up. Okay, so the whole note rest symbol is hanging on the fourth line down. The half note or minim rest is sat on that third line up. A really common rest that you'll see obviously is the quarter note or the crotchet rest. It's this sort of squiggly line. If you see people handwriting them, sometimes they'll write it as a backwards 7 sort of, but the most common one that you'll see is that squiggly line there, and that's a crotchet or a quarter note rest. The quaver, you've got that line with a little flick on it. It almost looks like a 7, but that's an 8th note or a quaver rest. The 16th note, exactly the same, but there's an added little tail to it. So exactly the same in the way that with the note symbol, you've got 2 little flicks, 2 little tails on the end of the stem for the 16th note. The rest symbol is the same. And then the 32nd note, or the Demi Semiquaver rest, follows the same principle. So you've got those 3 little tails, the same as you've got on the Demi Semiquaver or the 32nd note, the note symbol. So it's all very logical. I find the 8th note, the 16th note, and the 32nd note quite easy to see because you've just got that added tail each time. The 2 confusing ones are the whole note semibreve and the half note minim ones. It's just remembering that little rectangle. Is it hanging on the 4th line or is it sat on the 3rd line up? So let me play you a couple of examples of rests. You'll see from this first one we've got 2 quarter note or crotchet beats, and we've also got 2 quarter note or crotchet rests. And have a listen to how this example should be played. You can hear clearly that the note lasts for a quarter note each time, and then there's a rest for a quarter note each time. And this second example is slightly more complicated. We've got another quarter note and a quarter note rest there in the second half of the bar, but in that first half of the bar we've got an 8th note or a quaver rest, and so it's a slightly different rhythm. So have a listen to this. You can hear how the different rests just provide that little bit of interest factor and different rhythms. It'd be very different if you held those notes onwards. So what about if a composer wants you to rest for a whole bar? Well, a whole bar rest is the same as a whole note rest. It's that little rectangle that's hanging on that 4th line up, and that's 1 whole bar of rest. And you can see in this the time signature is 4/4, so you're going to rest for a whole bar of 4 quarter notes. Sometimes a composer might want you to rest for more than 1 bar. So if you're playing in an ensemble, particularly if you're playing in a chamber group or an orchestra, you might find that your part has a number of bars of rest that you need to count for. Instead of writing all of the bars out, they might simply write out the number of bars that they want you to rest for. So in this example, the composer would like you to rest for 5 whole bars. Okay, so you need to be thinking about that when you're looking at your part. My big advice when thinking about rest is always try and play clap rhythms and note durations, so that you get a feel for how long a rest should be, and you get a sense of how do I count to make sure I stay in time even when I'm resting. Hope you found that lesson helpful. Head over to musictheoryacademy.com. You'll find lots more video lessons and other resources aimed at helping you on your musical journey.